I'm Emily Thompson, 28, and after 8 years building my marketing career in New York City, I returned to my small hometown of Riverdale. Standing outside my childhood home, suitcase in hand, I felt a mix of nostalgia and anxiety. Dad's heart attack had brought me back to help Mom, but I never expected to hear those words. As I approached the kitchen to announce my arrival, my sister Heather's whisper stopped me cold. "Can't wait for Emily to leave," the sister I'd practically raised, who I thought adored me. My heart chattered as Mom sighed in agreement. I smiled bitterly and shut the door without a sound. Before I tell you what happened next, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from, hit that like button, and subscribe if you want more family drama stories that might just hit close to home. Growing up, Heather and I share everything. Not just our bedroom with its pale yellow walls and twin beds, but our deepest secrets and wildest dreams. Being 3 years older, I naturally took on the protective big sister role. I still remember the day Tommy Wilkins pushed 7-year-old Heather off the swings at Jefferson Elementary. I marched right up to that 10-year-old boy, 2 years my senior, and gave him a piece of my mind and threatened to tell his mother about the cigarettes I'd seen him hiding behind the slide. He never bothered Heather again. Then there was Heather's 8th grade dance. Mom had to work a double shift at the diner, and Dad was away on one of his long-haul trucking routes. I spent 3 days curling Heather's hair and helping her apply makeup for the first time. When Brian Stevens stood her up, I drove to his house in Dad's pickup truck without permission, dragged him out of his video game session, and made him apologize to Heather in person. She cried that night but thanked me for being the best sister ever. Our most sacred memory was the summer camping trip when Heather was 14 and I was 17. We snuck away from the family campsite to watch meteors from a small clearing. I told her about my dreams of moving to New York, and she confided she might want to become a veterinarian. We made a pact that night, pinkies linked under the shooting stars, promising to always support each other's dreams, no matter what. That's why leaving for New York after college was so difficult. Mom and Dad had always assumed I'd stay in Riverdale, maybe take over the bookkeeping for Dad's small trucking company or work at the local insurance office like my cousin Jessica. When I announced my marketing job offer in Manhattan, the family dinner table fell silent. "New York," Dad had said, setting down his fork. "What's wrong with Riverdale?" Mom's eyes had watered. "It's so far away, Emily." Only Heather had seemed genuinely happy for me, squeezing my hand under the table and whispering, "You're going to be amazing." Her support made leaving possible. My career had exceeded even my ambitious expectations. Within 3 years at Henderson and Blake Marketing, I'd been promoted twice. My campaign for a struggling organic food delivery service went viral, increasing their customer base by 300% in 6 months. By 26, I was the youngest senior marketing strategist in the company's history, with a corner office overlooking Madison Avenue and a salary that still seemed surreal for a girl from Riverdale. But success came with sacrifices. Weekly calls to Mom dwindled to monthly. I missed Heather's college graduation because of a major client presentation. Last Christmas was the first holiday I'd made at home in 3 years. With each visit, I noticed small changes: new furniture, different hairstyles, inside jokes I wasn't part of anymore. The distance grew beyond just physical miles. Mom's calls always kept me somewhat connected to home. She'd update me about Aunt Clara's arthritis, the new stoplight on Main Street, or which of my high school classmates had gotten married or divorced. She mentioned Dad's high cholesterol and how Heather seemed a bit lost after college, but never anything truly alarming. Until 3 days ago. Mom's voice trembled over the phone as she explained Dad had collapsed at the hardware store. Heart attack. Emergency surgery. Critical but stable. I called my boss Vanessa directly from the hospital's number. "Family emergency," I explained. "My father had a heart attack. I need to go home. The Westfield presentation is next week," she reminded me, concern in her voice tempered with professional practicality. "I'll work remotely." "I'll make it work," I promised, already booking a flight on my phone. "My team can handle the prep. I just need to be there." The flight home was a blur of anxiety and preparation emails. Landing in Manchester and driving the rental car to Riverdale, I rehearsed comforting words for Mom and cheerful encouragement for Dad. I hadn't prepared for Heather's reception. At first, everything seemed normal. Mom hugged me tight in the driveway, her thin frame feeling smaller than I remembered. Heather embraced me too, but now I realized how quickly she had pulled away, how she avoided my eyes. The house looked both exactly the same and completely different. The porch swing Dad installed when I was 10 still hung from creaking chains, but the living room furniture had been rearranged. Mom's collection of ceramic birds still lined the mantel, but unfamiliar photos filled the walls, family moments I'd missed. My old room had become a hybrid of storage space and guest room. My debate team trophies remain on the bookshelf, but my bed now sported an unfamiliar floral comforter. It was as if the house was caught between preserving my memory and moving on without me. Heather's cold behavior continued through dinner. She answered my questions about her veterinary assistant job with clipped responses. When I asked about her friends or dating life, she changed the subject. Looking back, the signs were all there. The tight smiles, the way she'd leave the room when I entered, the suspicious glances when I offered to help with dinner. I should have confronted her immediately. Instead, I focused on Dad, convincing myself Heather was just stressed about his health. I couldn't have been more wrong. Dad was asleep when I arrived at the hospital that first morning, his face ashen against the white pillows. Tubes and wires connected him to softly beeping machines. Mom had gone home to shower, leaving me alone with him. I held his weathered hand, shocked by how frail it felt. This was the man who'd taught me to change a tire and build a bookshelf. Now he looked small, vulnerable. "When did you get so old, Dad?" I whispered, brushing back the gray hair I didn't remember being quite so predominant. His eyes fluttered open. "Not old," he mumbled, "just a little defective." His attempt at humor brought tears to my eyes. I spent the next 3 days dividing my time between the hospital and home. Heather continued to avoid me, leaving for work before I woke and often staying out late. When we did overlap, conversation was strained, focusing exclusively on Dad's recovery. On the 4th day, searching for a phone charger in the hallway closet, I discovered a stack of high school yearbooks. I pulled out my senior year and sat cross-legged on my bedroom floor, flipping through the glossy pages. There I was, debate team captain, honor society president, most likely to leave Riverdale behind, a superlative I'd once worn proudly. The doorbell interrupted my nostalgia. I opened it to find Madison Kent, my best friend throughout high school who I now mainly kept up with through occasional likes on Instagram. "Maddie," I exclaimed, genuinely delighted. "I didn't know you still lived in town." "Never left," she said with a self-deprecating smile. "Teaching English at our old high school now." She held up a casserole dish. "Mom sent this for your family." We settled at the kitchen table with coffee, ears melting away as we fell into easy conversation, until I mentioned Heather. "She's barely speaking to me," I confided. "I know Dad's situation is stressful, but it feels personal." Madison's expression shifted. "You really don't know, do you?" "Know what?" Heather had to drop out of veterinary school after her 2nd year. The news hit me like a physical blow. "What? When? Why didn't anyone tell me?" Madison looked uncomfortable. "About 3 years ago. Your dad's trucking business was struggling. Medical bills, I think. Your mom needed help, so Heather came home." I thought back to our phone calls. Mom had mentioned Heather was taking a break from school, but never explained further. I'd assumed it was a temporary situation, maybe a semester off. "She tried starting a pet grooming business last year," Madison continued. "Invested everything she had saved. It didn't work out." Each revelation felt like another brick on my chest. My sister's dreams abandoned. Her business failed, and I'd known nothing. After Madison left, I searched the house for evidence of these events. In the home office, buried under utility bills, I found a folder labeled "Pause and Reflect Pet Grooming." Inside were business plans, loan applications most stamped denied, and marketing materials that made my professional heart wince, amateur designs that no business could succeed with. The final page was a handwritten calculation of losses, $12,347. Beside it, in my sister's familiar handwriting. Should have gotten a marketing degree like Emily. The pieces were falling into place. While I'd been building my dream career in New York, my family had been struggling. Heather hadn't just stayed behind, she'd sacrificed her future to support our parents. That evening, Mom made an offhand comment that struck deep. "It's nice having you home, Emily. Reminds me of when we were a complete family." The implication was clear. Without me, they weren't complete, yet they'd been forced to adapt to my absence. Internal conflict intensified with each passing. I loved my New York life, the energy of the city, the professional respect I'd earned. But seeing the reality of what I'd left behind filled me with guilt I couldn't shake. The final piece of the puzzle fell into place when I overheard Mom and Heather in the kitchen late that night. I hadn't meant to eavesdrop, but their hushed tones drew me to the hallway. "The property tax is due next week," Heather was saying. "And we're already behind on the mortgage." "Your father doesn't need to worry about this right now," Mom replied. "His recovery is what matters. We could lose the house, Mom. We've made it through worse. We'll figure it out." I retreated to my room, mind spinning. The next morning, while everyone was out, I did something I'm not proud of. I searched through the bills in Dad's desk. What I found confirmed my worst fears. Second mortgage. Medical bills marked final notice. A foreclosure warning from the bank dated just 2 weeks earlier. My family was drowning, and I'd been completely oblivious, wrapped up in my Manhattan bubble. Dad came home from the hospital the following day. Helping him settle into the recliner in the living room, I noticed a plastic container filled with prescription bottles on the side table. "That's a lot of medication," I observed, trying to sound casual. Mom nodded tiredly. "The new heart medications are the expensive ones." When she left to prepare lunch, I examined the label. The copay stickers made my stomach drop. $175, $220, $95. Monthly costs that would strain even my budget, let alone my parents' limited income. That night, after Dad had gone to bed, I cornered Mom in the kitchen. "Why didn't you tell me how bad things were?" She busied herself washing dishes. "Tell you what, dear, the second mortgage, the threat of foreclosure. Heather dropping out of school. Any of it." The plate she was washing slipped from her hands, clattering in the sink. She didn't turn around, but I saw her shoulders begin to shake. "Mom," I moved closer, touching her arm. She broke down completely then, sobs racking her body as years of hidden stress poured out. I guided her to a chair, kneeling beside her as she spoke through tears. "Your father didn't want you to know. He was so proud of you, making it in New York. We both were." She wiped her eyes with a cheesecloth. "He didn't want our problems to hold you back. But I could have helped. I've been doing well. I could have sent money. That's exactly why he wouldn't tell you." Her voice hardened slightly. "He didn't raise you to be our retirement plan." I pushed back my own tears. "And Heather, her school," Mom sighed. "That was her choice. The trucking company was failing. Medical bills piling up after your father's first mini stroke. First, there were others before this," Mom nodded wearily. "3 small ones over the past 4 years. Each time, he refused to call you, said you had your own life to worry about." The weight of their silent suffering crushed me. "I'm going to help now. I have savings. I can." "No." Heather's voice came from the doorway. I hadn't heard her come in. Her expression was cold, arms crossed defensively. "We don't need your charity." "It's not charity, it's family," I insisted, standing to face her. "Family," Heather laughed bitterly. "You remember that concept every few years when it's convenient. That's not fair. Girls, please." Mom looked between us, exhaustion etched in every line of her face. "I'm just saying what we're all thinking." Heather's eyes blazed. "Emily gets to build her perfect life in New York while we struggle here, and now she swoops in playing savior when it's already too late." Her words stung because they contained truth I couldn't deny. I thought of our childhood pact under the stars. Had I broken my promise to support her dreams while pursuing my own? "I didn't know," I said softly. "No one told me." "You never asked," Heather shot back. "Too busy posting Instagram photos from rooftop parties to ask if your sister had to drop out of school, or if Dad's business was failing, or if Mom was working double shifts at 62. The tension simmered through an uncomfortable family dinner that evening. Dad tried to mediate with reminiscences about our childhood, but his efforts only highlighted the years I'd missed. Every memory he shared seemed to end with, "But you were already in New York by then, Emily." After dinner, I escaped to the back porch, needing air and space to think. The screen door didn't close completely, letting voices drift out from the kitchen where Mom and Heather were washing dishes. "She'll be gone in a few days," Heather was saying, unaware I could hear. "Back to her perfect apartment and glamorous job while we're still dealing with the same problems." She offered to help financially, Mom reminded her. "Great. She throws money at us and considers her duty done. Meanwhile, I'm the one who's been here every single day. I'm the one who gave up everything." "Heather." "No, Mom, I'm tired of pretending. I've spent years being the good daughter while Ellie gets all the credit for her big city success. I can't wait for Emily to leave so we can stop this charade and get back to reality." Now I heard the full version of the whispered sentiment that had first broken my heart. It hurt even more in context. "You don't mean that," Mom said gently. "She's still your sister, a sister who abandoned us, who had the luxury of following her dreams while I stayed behind picking up the pieces." Heather's voice cracked. "I'm tired of being the responsible one while she gets to be the family success story." I backed away from the door, tears streaming down my face. In my room, I threw clothes into my suitcase, hands shaking with hurt and anger. I'd booked the first flight back to New York in the morning. They clearly didn't want me here. I'd send money anonymously through a lawyer if needed, but I couldn't stay where I wasn't wanted. As I zipped my suitcase closed, the full weight of the situation crashed over me. My sister hated me. My parents had suffered in silence, and I'd been completely blind to it all, wrapped up in my own ambitions. I didn't sleep that night. At dawn, I slipped out of the house with my car keys, leaving a note saying I'd gone for coffee. Instead, I drove aimlessly through Riverdale's quiet streets, seeing my hometown through new eyes. I passed Jefferson Elementary, where Heather and I had shared monkey bars in secret. The high school football field where I'd given my valedictorian speech, confidently declaring I was destined for bigger things than this small town could offer. The Dairy Queen where I'd worked summers during college, saving every penny for my New York fun. Each landmark held memories of the person I'd been: ambitious, perhaps selfish, certainly naive about what my departure would mean for those left behind. Without consciously deciding to, I found myself at Riverside Park, parking near the wooden observation deck that overlooked the water. This had been my thinking spot as a teenager, where I'd dreamed of skyscrapers and success. "Emily Thompson. Thought you'd escaped us for good." I turned to find Mr. Harrison, my old English teacher, walking his golden retriever along the riverside path. His hair had gone completely silver, but his kind eyes were unchanged. "Just visiting," I said, attempting a smile. "Dad had a heart attack, I heard." "Small town," he explained, joining me at the railing. "How is he, recovering?" I hesitated. "It's complicated." Mr. Harrison nodded thoughtfully. "Family usually is." Something about his presence, this teacher who'd once encouraged my writing and ambitions, broke down my remaining defenses. The whole story poured out. My ignorance of family struggles, Heather's resentment, my confusion about what to do next. "I built this whole life in New York," I concluded. "But coming back, seeing what it cost them for me to chase my dreams, I don't know who I am anymore." Mr. Harrison was quiet for a moment, washing a heron fish in the shallow water below. "Success is tricky," he finally said. "Our culture tells us it's individual achievement, moving up and away. But there's another kind of success that's harder to measure, the kind that comes from being present, from showing up for the people who need you." "I didn't know they needed me," I whispered. "Maybe not, but now you do." He squeezed my shoulder. "The question is, what will you do with that knowledge?" My phone buzzed with an incoming call. Vanessa from the office. I excused myself to answer. "Where are we on the Westfield presentation?" she demanded without preamble. "The team says you haven't uploaded your revisions." "I'm dealing with a family situation." "I understand that, Emily, but this account is worth 7 figures. Henderson himself is attending." "When are you coming back?" The Emily from a week ago would have apologized profusely, promised to work through the night, prioritized the client above all else. Instead, I found myself saying, "I don't know yet, My father's health is my priority right now. Silence, then. That's not the answer I was looking for. We accommodated your emergency, but the company needs reliability. The implied threat was clear. I ended the call promising to check in tomorrow, suddenly seeing my prestigious job through new eyes. How many family dinners, birthdays, and everyday moments had I sacrificed for that corner office? Back at the house that evening, I sat cross-legged on my bed, flipping through old photo albums. There we were, Heather and me building a snowman, fishing with Dad, helping Mom decorate Christmas cookies. A happy family, once, before I left. A soft thud from Heather's adjacent room caught my attention. Her door was slightly ajar, and I glimpsed her dresser drawer left open. Intending only to close it, I noticed a leather-bound journal inside the one I'd given her for high school graduation. I hesitated, knowing I should respect her privacy. But my need to understand her feelings overcame my better judgment. I flipped to a recent entry, dated just a month ago. Sometimes I wonder if Emily ever thinks about what she left behind. If she knows I cry myself to sleep some nights, overwhelmed by everything. Mom tries to hide her worry, Dad pretends he's fine, and I'm supposed to be the strong one. I don't regret staying for them, but I hate that I've disappeared inside their needs. No one sees me anymore. Just the dutiful daughter who sacrificed everything. I closed the journal, shame burning through me. This wasn't angry Heather lashing out, this was my baby sister drowning in responsibility and feeling invisible. I'd been so focused on whether they were proud of my success that I never considered the true cost of my absence. That night, I wrote 2 letters. The first to my family, pouring out my regrets, my love, my desire to make amends. The second to myself, a promise to realign my values with what truly mattered. As dawn broke, I made my decision. I wouldn't run back to New York. I would stay and face the mess I'd helped create. I remembered my grandmother's words before she passed, when I was 15 and Heather 12. Family isn't just who you love, Emily, it's who you choose to fight for when things get hard. It was time I honored that wisdom. I found Heather alone in the kitchen the next morning, pouring coffee before her early shift at the veterinary clinic. We need to talk, I said, blocking the doorway when she tried to leave. I'm going to be late for work. Call in. This is more important. My tone left no room for argument. Surprise flickered across her face. The old Emily would have backed down, prioritizing politeness over confrontation. She hesitated, grabbed her phone and stepped into the living room. I heard her making an excuse about a family situation. When she returned, she leaned against the counter, arms crossed defensively. So talk. I heard what you said to Mom. I watched her face pale slightly. About wanting me to leave. You were eavesdropping. Yes, just like I was when I first arrived and heard you say you couldn't wait for me to leave. Heather flinched but quickly recovered. Well, now you know how I feel. Satisfied. No. I moved closer. I want to know everything, Heather. The real story of what happened after I left. No more protecting me from the truth. Why? So you can feel better about abandoning us. Get some material for your next dinner party about your struggling small-town family. Her words stung, but I recognized the pain beneath them. Because you're my sister, and I failed you. Something in my voice must have reached her because her eyes welled with tear. You promised, she whispered, under the stars that night. You promised we'd support each other's dreams. I know. I got accepted to Cornell's veterinary program. This revelation hit me like a physical blow. Cornell had been her dream school. Full scholarship for the first year, partial after that. I was going to follow you to New York State. You never told me. I was going to surprise you. I had it all planned. Her voice cracked. Then Dad had his first stroke. Mom was falling apart trying to manage the business. The medical bills, she wiped angrily at her tears. Someone had to stay. It should have been me, I said quietly. Yes, her composure shattered. Yes, it should have been you. I was 22, Emily. I had my whole future ahead of me. But you were already gone, building your perfect New York life, posting Instagram photos from fancy restaurants while I was filling out medical insurance appeals. She paced the kitchen, years of suppressed feelings pouring out. Do you know what it's like to sit in a financial aid office and withdraw from your dream school? to watch your classmates become doctors while you're cleaning kennels at a small-town vet clinic, to date guys who assume you lack ambition because you live with your parents at 25. Each word was a deserved blow. "I'm so sorry," I whispered. "Your sorry doesn't pay the mortgage," she shot back. "Your sorry doesn't give me back 3 years of my life." "Then tell me what will help," I pleaded. "I want to fix this." "You can't fix it. That's what you don't understand. You think because you're successful in New York, you can just throw money at our problems and make everything better. But some things can't be fixed, Emily. Some choices are permanent." We both fell silent, the weight of her words hanging between us. Then, surprising us both, I started to laugh, a sad, hollow sound. "What's so funny?" she demanded. "The irony," I said, wiping my eyes. "You think my life in New York is perfect. I haven't had a relationship last longer than 3 months in 5 years. I work 70-hour weeks. My boss just threatened my job because I'm here instead of preparing for a presentation." Heather looked skeptical. Poor Emily with her corner office and Manhattan apartment. "My apartment is a glorified closet that costs more than Dad's mortgage. I haven't made a real friend since college. The last guy I dated called me emotionally unavailable." The truth poured out of me. "I'm lonely, Heather. All the time. I just never admitted it because that would mean I sacrificed our family for nothing." Something shifted in her expression, the first crack in her wall of resentment. "Why didn't you ever say anything? The same reason you didn't tell me about Cornell or Dad's strokes." I was protecting my pride. For the first time in years, we saw each other clearly, not as the villains we'd constructed in our minds, but as flawed, hurting sisters who'd lost their way. Heather sank into a cushioned chair. "I don't hate you," she said quietly. "I wanted to, sometimes. It was easier than missing you." I sat across from her, tentatively reaching for her hand. She didn't pull away. "I missed you every day," I confessed. "I just didn't let myself feel it because it hurt too much." The kitchen door swung open as Mom entered, stopping short at the sight of us holding hands across the table, both crying. "What's happening?" she asked cautiously. "We're finally telling the truth," I said. Mom's eyes filled with tears as she joined us at the table. "It's about time." An hour later, Dad called for us from the living room. We found him sitting up in his recliner, looking more alert than I'd seen him since arriving. "Family meeting," he announced. "It's time we cleared the air." Dad's family meeting was unlike any conversation we'd ever had. For the first time, my parents spoke openly about their financial struggles, the trucking company's decline as fuel prices rose and larger competitors undercut his rates, the medical bills that insurance only partially covered, their dwindling retirement savings. "I was too proud," Dad admitted, his voice weaker than his words. "Too stubborn to admit I was failing." "You weren't failing," Mom insisted. "The economy was." "Either way," he continued, "I couldn't bear to ask for help. Especially not from you, Emily. You were doing exactly what we raised you to do, following your dreams. While Heather sacrificed hers," I said quietly. Dad looked at my sister, regret etching new lines in his face. "That's my greatest shame. We should have found another way." Heather wiped her eyes. "I made my choice, Dad. A choice you shouldn't have had to make," I interjected. "But things are going to change now." I outlined my plan. I would work remotely from Riverdale for the next month. I'd help organize their finances, explore refinancing options, and use my marketing skills to boost Dad's remaining trucking contracts. "1 month won't fix years of problems," Heather pointed out, ever the pragmatist. "It's a start," I countered. "And who said anything about leaving after a month?" 3 sets of eyes turned to me in surprise. "What about your job?" Mom asked. "My job isn't everything." The words felt revolutionary as they left my mouth. "I need to reevaluate what success really means to me." After our family meeting, I called Vanessa to request an extended family leave. The conversation went exactly as I'd feared. "Extended leave, during our busiest quarter," her incredulity burned through the phone. "Emily, I've supported your emergency absence, but this is pushing it. My father nearly died, Vanessa, and I'm sorry for that, truly. But Henderson and Blake doesn't pause for personal crises. The Westfield account can be handled by Brendan. He's more than capable." Silence, then. "Is this really about your father, or are you having second thoughts about your commitment to this company?" The question hung in the air. 6 days ago, such an accusation would have sent me into a panic-driven apology. Now, I felt a strange calm. My commitment to excellence hasn't changed, I said carefully, but my priorities have. I need this time with my family. Then take it, she replied coldly. But understand that your position may not be waiting when you return. I ended the call with shaking hands but a steady heart. For the first time in my adult life, I'd chosen family over career without hesitation. That night, Heather found me at the kitchen table, surrounded by spreadsheets analyzing the family finances. "We're really serious about this," she observed, sliding into the chair opposite me. "Dead serious." I pushed a stack of papers toward her. "I've been looking at your business plan for the pet grooming service." She stiffened. "You went through my things." "Found it in Dad's office," I corrected. "Heather, the concept is solid. Your execution plan needed work, but the core idea is good." "It failed," she reminded me, "because you lacked capital and marketing expertise." I tapped my laptop. "I have both," she eyed me suspiciously. "What are you suggesting? A partnership?" I opened a new spreadsheet I'd created. Mobile pet grooming services are trending in suburban areas. Riverdale has over 3,000 registered pets and no dedicated grooming facility since Pet Zone closed last year. For the first time, I saw a flicker of the old Heather, the one with dreams and ambition. "Keep talking." We stayed up until 3 in the morning, hunched over my laptop, reworking her business plan. I taught her about digital marketing, customer acquisition costs, and sustainable growth modeling. She educated me on pet care trends and local market needs. For those hours, we weren't the estranged sisters nursing wounds, we were partners, equals, combining our different strengths. When Mom found us the next morning, we were asleep at the table, surrounded by notes and printouts, Heather's head resting on my shoulder like when we were kids. The following weeks wrought tentative healing. I contacted a mortgage specialist who helped restructure my parents' loans, reducing their monthly payments. Heather and I registered a business name, Paws on Wheels, and began building a simple website and social media presence. Our first small victory came when Riverdale Pet Supply agreed to partner with us, offering a discount for our customers and displaying our flyers. The owner, Mr. Grayson, had been Dad's friend for decades. "Your father helped me keep this place when my wife got sick in '09, he told us. "About time someone returned the favor to you Thompsons." I was discovering that small towns operated on a different economy, one based on relationships, history, and reciprocity. I knew York networking skills were useful, but Heather's deep community connections proved invaluable. Gradually, Heather's frost toward me thawed. We still had moments of tension when old resentments surfaced, but we were learning to speak honestly instead of retreating to our corners. One night, after securing our first 5 grooming appointments, she actually hugged me, a real embrace, not the performative gesture from when I'd first arrived. Dad's recovery progressed steadily. His color improved, and he began taking short walks around the neighborhood. I often joined him, using these moments to learn about his business challenges and offer fresh perspectives. "You know," he said during one such walk, "I was wrong about New York changing you." "I have changed," I pointed out. "Yes, but not how I fear. You gained skills, confidence. But that good heart, that's still pure Riverdale Emily." His words affected me more than any performance review or client praise ever had. Week 3 brought a pivotal moment. Heather's old veterinary school friend visited and mentioned Cornell's distance learning program for their veterinary technician certification. "You could do it while building the grooming business," she suggested. "Many of the credits from your first 2 years would transfer." The hope that bloomed on Heather's face made my heart squeeze. Later that night, I found her researching the program on her laptop. "Too expensive," she said, quickly closing the browser when she noticed me. "Not if business goes as projected," I countered. "Plus, I have savings." "I'm not taking your money, Emily. It's not charity, it's investment. In you, in us." I sat beside her. "Remember our pact under the stars?" I broke my end of it. "Let me make it right." She didn't agree immediately, but she didn't refuse either. Progress. By week 4, we had launched Paws on Wheels with a modest social media campaign targeting local pet owners. Our calendar filled with appointments, and we converted Dad's old work van into a mobile grooming station. I put my corporate marketing skills to work, creating targeted ads that brought in customers from neighboring towns. One evening, I overheard Heather on the phone with her friend Lauren. "It's actually happening," she was saying. "The business, school possibility. All of it. And honestly, the craziest part is working with Emily. She's not the same person who left. Or maybe she is, and I just forgot who she really was." Her words warmed something long cold inside me. That weekend, we held a small gathering to celebrate Dad's improving health and our new business venture. Many of my old classmates attended, including Mark Stevens, my high school debate partner who now taught at the local community college. His lingering glances suggested a potential for connection I hadn't expected to find in Riverdale. I was helping Mom serve dessert when my phone buzzed with an email from Vanessa. "Position filled. Personal items shipped to home address. HR will contact exit paperwork." 6 weeks ago, this message would have devastated me. Now, I felt something unexpected: relief. The 6-week mark when I'd originally planned to return to New York passed without ceremony. My apartment sublet had been extended, my belongings shipped to Riverdale in 4 cardboard boxes that seemed impossibly small to contain a life I'd spent 8 years building. "Is that really everything?" Heather asked as we unpacked the boxes in what was now officially my room again, not just a storage space with a bed. "Just the important stuff," I replied, placing a framed photo of our family on the dresser. Turns out most of it was just stuff. The decision to leave New York permanently hadn't come in one dramatic moment but through a series of realizations. The termination email from Henderson and Blake had initially stung my pride, but the pain faded surprisingly quickly. Within days, I'd secured a remote position with a boutique marketing firm that specialized in small businesses, less prestige, less money, but offering something my corner office never had: flexibility and purpose. Paws on Wheels exceeded our modest projections, booking solid weeks in advance by the 2-month mark. Heather's natural rapport with animals combined with my marketing strategy created something neither of us could have built alone. She'd submitted her application for Cornell's distance learning program, using our growing business as the cornerstone of her personal statement. The family's financial situation improved steadily through combined efforts. Dad's health insurance appeals, which had languished in bureaucratic limbo, moved forward when I applied my corporate hone persistence to the process. Mom reduced her diner shifts from 6 days to 4. The foreclosure threat disappeared with restructured payments and the additional income Heather and I generated. Our childhood home transformed alongside our relationships. The faded living room received fresh paint, a project all 4 of us tackled together one weekend, laughing as Dad meticulously outlined every light switch while Mom splattered more paint on herself than the walls. The porch swing got new chains, the kitchen faucet stopped dripping, and solar lights illuminated the walkway Dad could now navigate without assistance. "You know what's funny?" Dad said one evening as we sat on the repair porch swing. "I spent years worrying about this place falling apart without enough money to fix it. Turns out what it really needed was all of us working together." His recovery became a family victory. Each small milestone: walking to the corner store, helping with minor repairs, attending his first trucking association meeting since the heart attack, we celebrated together. The color returned to his face, along with his dry humor and quiet wisdom. "The doctor says your blood pressure is nearly normal," Mom announced after his 3-month checkup, relief softening the worry lines that had become permanent features of her face. "See," Dad winked at me. "All I needed was for my firstborn to come to her senses and move home." 6 months after my return, I found myself eavesdropping again, not intentionally, but some habits die hard. I was heading to the kitchen for coffee when I heard Heather on the phone in the living room. "Honestly, Lauren, I can't even remember why I was so angry anymore," she was saying. "Having Emily back has changed everything. Did I tell you we got the contract with Riverdale Pet Resort? Yeah, twice weekly grooming services for all their boarders." She laughed at something her friend said. "I know, right? And get this, she's actually dating Mark Stevens from high school." Full circle moment. Another pause. "No, she's definitely staying. She turned down a job offer from Chicago last week. Said she's exactly where she needs to be. Her voice lowered slightly. Between us, I'm so glad Emily decided to stay. I forgot what it was like having a sister instead of just a Christmas card. I stood frozen in the hallway, coffee forgotten, as joy expanded in my chest. 6 months ago, I'd overheard words that shattered my heart. Now, I'd heard their healing counterpart. That Thanksgiving, my first holiday home in 4 years that wasn't abbreviated by a return flight, we hosted 18 people around expanded tables in the dining room. Cousins, aunts, uncles, and friends crowded together, passing dishes and stories with equal enthusiasm. After dinner, Mark squeezed my hand under the table, a silent question in his eyes about whether I regretted my choice to stay. I squeezed back, no hesitation in my response. My New York friends would be shocked to see me now. Emily Thompson, ambitious marketing executive, contentedly settled in her hometown, aiding her high school debate partner, and running a pet grooming business with her sister. But the Emily who left Riverdale had been running toward a vision of success defined by others. The Emily who returned had learned to define success for herself. Later that night, as the house quieted and family dispersed to their homes, I found myself alone in the kitchen with Mom. "Those dishes can wait until morning," she suggested, noticing my tired eyes. "I don't mind," I smiled, hands in soapy water. "It feels good to take care of our home." "Our home," she repeated softly. "You know, I prayed for years you'd find your way back to us. Not because I wanted to limit your dreams, but because I knew part of you was missing. I needed to leave to understand what I was leaving," I admitted. "I don't regret New York. I just regret how I left things unfinished here." I was about to elaborate when Heather appeared in the doorway, phone in hand. "Emily, Mark is on the phone." Something about Christmas lights at the town square. As I dried my hands to take the call, I heard Heather tell Mom, "Did you hear Lauren's pregnant? She wants me to design a grooming plan for their new puppy before the baby comes. Oh, and I got an A on my veterinary pharmacology paper." I paused in the hallway, giving them a moment of mother-daughter conversation. Through the partially open door, I heard Heather's voice drop to a whisper. "Mom, I'm so glad Emily decided to stay. I can't imagine going back to how things were." I smiled and quietly shut the door, leaving them to their moment. The words were so similar to what I'd first overheard, yet fundamentally not "can't wait for Emily to leave," but "so glad Emily decided to stay." Sometimes the most painful truths, when finally faced, lead to the deepest healing. I'd return home thinking I was sacrificing my future, only to discover I was reclaiming parts of myself I'd left behind: connection, purpose, belonging. What does home mean to you? Is it a place, a feeling, or the people who see both your flaws and your potential? For me, it became all three. I had to leave to understand its value, and I had to return to make it whole again. If you've ever struggled between ambition and belonging, career and family, moving forward and circling back, I'd love to hear your story in the comments. Don't forget to like this video if it resonated with you, subscribe for more real-life journeys, and share with someone who might be facing similar crossroads. Thank you for listening to my story of homecoming and healing. Sometimes the door we need to close is the one keeping us from our truest selves.